Hello, Transurfer and the Transurfing Curious. My name is Renee Garcia and this is TransurfingTV, and today, standards of success. This is a really big one in the transurfing modality because we are constantly bombarded by pendulums telling us that we need to be a certain way, live a certain way, have certain things, do things a certain way, achieve success in a specific way that looks a specific way. And in these illusions that pendulums create for us, right? These illusions of if you just work really hard, you know, you'll have the $1 million and the this and the that, and all of these illusions that pendulums love to convince us of, so we maintain that stride of chasing after that dangling carrot. That means that the pendulums get from us our energy when we chase that elusive dangling carrot, right? This is, again, the pendulums setting the standards of success for us and them reaping the rewards of our energy that we put in trying to achieve those standards, versus the reality transurfing way of gaining success, which is bitchin'. In my honest opinion, it is the only way now, and boy oh boy can I see this coming from 1,000,000 miles away now, and I know where my energy best serves me and my intentions, and it's the transurfing way. Before I get started, remember to like this video and comment below. My world is taking care of me, to enter my daily giveaway for my reprogramming stickers and Reality 2.0 on Teachable down below. Check out the link. Join us on Facebook and like this video, subscribe, do all that supportive stuff to this channel. We absolutely appreciate it at TransurfingTV. So, wow, this is a meaty concept or a meaty lesson because there is so much of this going on in the world. I think we're getting better at it though. I think we're starting to see that the rewards, the illusions, all these things that pendulums try to convince us of. You gotta hustle and grind to get the money, and you gotta have this perfect relationship where you're having sex every single day and your sex has gotta look like this or else you're not a winner, right? Or you have to have this house like the ones on TV and stuff, and the cards and the this and the that. And I think people are starting to see through the bullshit, right? That it is not in achievement of the standards that pendulums have created for us that our fulfillment and our happiness come from, right? Our meaning, our joy. And transurfing sort of presents to us that tapping in to that stuff first is actually the way to get this stuff, right? This is the way to get this stuff. It's not the direct just desire, oh, I want more money, oh, I want a better relationship, oh, I want the nice house, oh, I want the nice car. And it's, you know, a lot of this has to do with David Hawkins' quote. I love David Hawkins so much. If you guys have not yet read or got this book, Letting Go, I highly recommend this. This is transurfing in another language, but a much easier language in transurfing. It's a little more, it's a little more general, but David Hawkins' Letting Go is a fantastic book that talks a lot about resolving this stuff, right? Letting go and sort of giving in to yourself, right? Letting go of you constantly trying to seek approval externally and giving in to you and nourishing you and letting go of those attachments externally and finding a place within that you become full, right? You become full and you can actually then do this in a meaningful way without excessive desire. So David Hawkins says desire, especially strong desire, frequently blocks our getting what we want. So the crappy thing about desire is desire doesn't actually produce anything. And desire, well, I mean, desire, I could make a whole video on how desire wrecks your reality and your mind, but desire really doesn't achieve much, and it's energetically ineffective, right? Desiring something without doing this first and then just taking meaningful, inspired action towards the things that you actually want, not the things that pendulums are convincing you that you want, but things that you actually want. There's meta power here, right? This is all meta power, and this is all energetic loss and inviting in of balancing forces. And also too, when you're doing this and you're looking towards the things that you don't have, you're saying, God, why can't I make the money? Or why can't I find the romantic partner that really loves me or that I really love? Or why don't I have the nice house yet? When you're doing this, you are telling your world that you are not deserving of it, right? And as I've been saying a lot to people when they ask me, well, if I drop importance on something, then how do I ever get it, right? And I'm like, here's the thing. Importance does not mean you get it. Importance doesn't actually produce a result. Your thoughts and your actions are what produces results. So when you're desiring something, you know, the pendulum's created standards of success. When you're desiring these standards, you really getting yourself into a place where you are just having importance on the stuff. You're not actually then breaking it down of what you legit need to, the steps you need to take to get you moving in the right direction. But here's the thing. Once you've sort of reconciled the standards that you have been adhering to try to, you know, get yourself to where you should be, right? Where pendulums say you should be, or where society says you should be. You realize when you look at this scenario, you realize that a lot of this stuff isn't even for you, that you actually don't even care, that the pendulum has simply convinced you that you do care. So a lot of people, when I say, okay, what's one thing you could materialize, right? If you could materialize anything right now, what would it be? And so many people say money. And I'm like, okay, so then what would you do with the money? But more valuably, then what will you do with yourself, right? After you've traveled and eat and drink and shop and do all the fun stuff that money can do for you, then what do you do with yourself? So it doesn't even matter if you magically sort of reach these standards, you are still going to be at a deficit with your development and your heart and mind coordination to an extent where you can get all this stuff and it's gonna mean fuck all, right? It's not gonna mean anything to you. So this is what happened for me. I made myself crazy trying to achieve this stuff pre-transurfing. I actually did manage to achieve the pendulum's created standard of the stuff, and I couldn't figure out why I was so miserable. I'm like, wait a second, I did all this stuff. Why am I still so miserable? And again, it boils down to I needed to do this. And in doing this, letting go of these standards, I still got myself to this place, but now I got myself to this place in a way that's meaningful and valuable to me, right? So what is the transurfing way to do it then? Well, first of all, it's to acknowledge where you have been approaching or going after pendulum created standards. And I'm a huge advocate for really, and I talk about this in my Mo Money course, of really getting down to what are your standards? Quantify, you quantify for yourself what's important. I know we don't like to use that word, but what's important for you, right? So for me, I like to have X amount of dollars in the bank. I like to have no debt. When I purchased my house, I wanted to put a big chunk down and have a certain dollar amount for my mortgage, and that's what I viewed as me creating a financial structure that I viewed as successful, right? I need X amount of dollars a month to live for the things that are actually meaningful for me. Not just me saying, I want more money, right? No, what do I need exactly, and what is of true value to me? I have to say that a lot of my pleasure is derived from what I'm doing with the transurfing community, making these videos, doing all the work that I do with Vadim. That doesn't cost very much. I mean, I have the expenses of running everything and keeping everything going. But when I think of getting more money, right, I'm like, okay, well, what would I actually use the money for? Because I'm kind of doing everything that I want to do right now. Would I would go maybe on a fancier vacation or something? Okay, so what after that? So what do I actually need the money for? How much money do I actually need to do the things in my life that are going to bring me joy and pleasure, and I'm going to feel as though my life has meaning? And once you sort of get over this idea that money's going to bring you happiness, and it's more about you finding that happiness first and then you attract the money, this is when everything sort of balances out and you don't really want for much, right? Because you're actually just doing it. And I have a video coming out soon called I Want for Nothing. And it's very powerful when you bring yourself back to this place of I want for nothing, I'm just going to do for myself, then you actually have the ability to accomplish this stuff in a real way, not a chasing after the dangling carrot kind of way, right? So again, it gets back to the David Hawkins quote, desire, especially strong desire, frequently blocks our getting what we want. So lower all of that desire and go here. And then you have the ability to fill yourself up to the extent that you attract and you elevate to the higher lifelines where the presence of all this stuff exists, rather than you making yourself fucking nuts trying to get up there in an artificial pendulum-induced kind of way, and then realizing, like I did, oh, this is a house of cards, right? So self-development, meaning, heart and mind coordination, fulfillment, self-love. There was a point in my life where, I think it was last year when I started to create the Mo Money course, and I did the quantifying exercise that I just spoke of, you know, really breaking it down to what I personally need to feel as though I'm successful. And I actually thought to myself, if I were like moving through these years of my life, my 40s and my 50s, if for some reason I had to sell my home or give up my home and I ended up just living in maybe a studio apartment somewhere or a smaller place, you know, with a friend or something like that to keep expenses low, and I just drove a car that was like paid for and maybe not that fancy, and I really lowered all my expectations. Again, you know, all this stuff that pendulums have convinced me that I needed. If I just kind of stripped all that away And let's say I lived in a studio apartment and I had, you know, just a beater car or whatever, I could absolutely be happy because my life has a lot of meaning and I have a lot of really beautiful connections with people, and I'm doing something that I feel an intense and an extreme amount of heart and mind coordination over. So this is exactly how I lower my levels of importance around all the external stuff, right? As I tune into that heart and mind coordination, and I allow this heart and mind coordination and what I'm doing on a daily basis to actually become my standard of success, right? This is my standard of success. Am I being effective? Am I helping people? Am I getting knowledge to people that need it in one way or another? Am I evolving as a person, not monetarily? Am I growing? Am I learning lessons? Am I becoming better? Am I, you know, just moving upward as a person? This is my new standard of success. I dropped this. I've changed my standard of success. Am I developing as a person? Does my life have meaning, heart and mind coordination? Am I feeling fulfilled? And do I feel 100% self-love for myself and like I'm coming first always, right? Like I'm taking care of myself. I'm doing everything that I need to do to feel as though my cup is totally full. This has become my new standard of success. And in this standard of success, I'm making money. I have a beautiful relationship. I've got a house of my dreams. I've got all the things that I once worked so hard for because I simply shifted my standards around of what I deemed as successful, how I chose to perceive success. So, where are you right now? Are you doing this? Are you going after the pendulum standards of success? Are you here and moving up to those things, those worldly things we all want? And if you are here, how can you shift? How can you start the shift today a little bit to pull yourself at least, you know, start seeing with awareness that you're doing this first, but then to pull yourself back a little bit and figure out what you can develop internally, how you can start self-loving internally, how you can start connecting to something that is going to provide you more meaning and fulfillment, where you can start feeling wealthy, right? Feeling successful, feeling all those amazing things that pendulums kind of convince us if we get these after chasing, then we'll feel all this stuff. But again, I found that out the hard way. That doesn't actually work. So let me know your thoughts on this video, everybody. Please like it, comment, and follow us on Facebook. And thank you so much for watching. Bye, guys.